Hello and welcome. My name is Jordan Mulak and I'm going to be talking about Mark Webber and how he got to the top level of his sport. I've chosen him as he's always been an underrated Australian sports figure in my opinion, who beat the odds to get to the pinnacle of motorsports. My analysis will be based on his autobiography, Aussie Grit, published in 2015. Sports delivery systems are in place to help develop potential future athletes from amateurs to professionals, climbing from the most basic levels of their chosen sport to the nominated end goal. According to Shilbury and Kellett's Sport Management in Australia, page 22, the natural progression of sport goes from a club level to district, state, national, then international. This can be different for some sports, but can be a key focus of this analysis. We will be looking at the rise of his career, how he moved up from small local competitions to win national titles, resulting in a subsequent move to Europe that brought further success over a long time period. Like most sports, motorsport requires certain pathways to reach an athlete's end goal. For Webber, this goal was reaching Formula 1. In motorsport, it is easy for an athlete to show off their skills as it is structured like a ladder format. The ongoing nature of a motorsport season gives multiple chances for an individual to show their potential. Let's take a look from the beginning and see how that enabled his career to progress toward the pinnacle of his achievements. Like many athletes, Webber was influenced by his parents, mainly his father, to take up motorsports. Although he had originally been interested in bikes as a child, Webber's first four-wheeled race start was in 1991 when he was just 14 years old. This was an important moment as it was the start of what was to be a long career. By the end of 1993, he had won the New South Wales Go-Kart Championship, moving up to Formula Ford in 1994, the next step on the pathway. Success came in that series, giving him more experience but importantly, more exposure. It was in 1995 that he scored a few race wins in the Australian Formula Ford Championship and signed a 7-year deal with the Yellow Pages for sponsorship, something that enabled him to go overseas to continue moving up. This deal was facilitated by his new manager Anne Neal, who has since been his partner. The inevitable move to Europe came in late 1995, with Webber being signed up to race in the 1996 British Formula Ford Championship, an essential step up to the higher formula before the 2000s. A second place finish in that championship saw him recognised by Formula 3 teams, giving him his first taste of slicks and wings in 1997. Monetary problems almost sidelined his career, with his father having to ask rugby great and Queanbeyan local Terry Campese to help fund Mark's career. From there, he had a point to prove, and finished fourth in the 1997 Formula 3 Championship, gaining interest from many eager onlookers. Mercedes-Benz took an interest in him and signed him to their 1998 sports car program, not Formula 1 like he had hoped. Second in that year's championship put him on the map. 3 highly documented crashes for Mercedes at the 1999 Le Mans 24 Hour, 2 including Webber, forced the team to abandon their sports car program effective immediately, leaving Webber out to dry. At the start of 1999, Webber scored his first Formula 1 drive in a test for the Arrows team. He remained their test driver for 2000, while also racing in the team's Formula 3000 team. Issues with the team in that year forced him to move to a similar agreement with Benetton for 2001, where he finished second in that year's Formula 3000 championship. This lined him up for his first career start in Formula 1. In 2002, he made his Formula 1 race debut at the Australian Grand Prix, a race that would see his name dominate the local papers. From there on, the rest is highly documented history. He stayed in F1 for the next 11 seasons, driving for Jaguar, Williams and Red Bull Racing, winning 9 races and finishing third in the championship 3 times, in 2010, 11 and 13. In 2014, he signed to the rebirth of Porsche's WEC program, finishing 9th in the championship. 2015 saw him and his teammates win the championship, his first overseas championship outside of Australia. During his time in Australia, Webber would have had to deal with what is now CAMS, who issue licensing and accreditation within Australia. CAMS has now taken a bigger interest in helping young drivers looking to go overseas, starting at the Australian Motorsport Foundation in 2001. Being an NSO, CAMS is essentially Australia's off-branch of the FIA, Motorsport's international governing body. When he moved to Europe, he was then under the direct organisation of the FIA. In terms of sport delivery systems, I believe the author, being Webber himself, had and always has a good understanding on the systems, not only for how he got to where he is, but what he needed to do to move forward. While I didn't touch on it, he had relative success in the 1996 British Formula Ford season, but really shone at that year's Formula Ford Festival, which had a totally different format to a regular season or just a standard race weekend, like a knockout format. He won the festival, which was a big deal back then. He and his management team totally understood what it would take to get to the top and knew the paths they could go down to get to the one end goal. Personally, I had a lot of prior knowledge about Webber before this analysis, but that didn't stop me from going in eyes open. I learnt that sometimes you have to deviate what you want to do so the goal is actually achieved, and that as much as some of us like to think, the format of a majority of motorsport is virtually the same. Just like the EPL, the one with the most points at the end of any season is the winner. The structure of each round, especially in the highly organised world of open-wheeled motorsport, there is very little deviation with rounds and championships. It's absolutely an effective system, as it has worked for many years to find the best performer. Even though there has always been some level of criticism, there is sometimes no perfect way to deliver a sport. I certainly couldn't think of any improvements. It all seems to be done pretty well as is. In summary, the sports delivery systems that are in motorsport, especially in Australia, helped Mark Webber by rewarding his success with further opportunities which snowballed from there. He understood the systems, took advantage of them, and used those to create further success.